Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Green Supply Chain Talks hosted by Finboot. I'm Flavia Sales, Marketing Manager here. So today I have a very special guest that came directly from Ireland. So I bring you Colm Jordan from Indorama Ventures. Hi, Colm.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you for joining us today.
I'm delighted to be with you here, and thanks for the invitation.
Of course, and traveling from Ireland to just to be with us, it's truly a privilege.
Oh, you're very welcome. I actually went via Brussels this morning, so that's another part of my job, but I'm delighted to be here.
Perfect. So I would like for you to present yourself and, of course, to tell about Indorama Ventures so people can understand what you do, your core business. So go ahead.
Well, as has been said, my name's Colm and I work with Indorama Ventures. My role is looking after advocacy and education. So what am I advocating for and what am I educating about? Our company has three core businesses. We make man-made fibres that would go into, say, your the seats that we're sitting on now are made from some of our fibres, most likely. We also have fibres going into tyres within cars and fibres going into personal hygiene as well. So that's a big part of our business. We also then have PET, so polyethylene terephthalate. So this is commonly used for water bottles, soft drink bottles and food trays. And that's a big part of our business. And I spend time advocating for the collection and recycling of that material to make sure we have a circular economy. And another part of our business is essential chemicals. So where we're providing the essential everyday needs, whether it's for household goods or whether it's for crop solutions or whether it's for industrial solutions, those basic chemicals that we use every day to get through our lives. So in almost every aspect of your life, whether it's a polyester t-shirt or the water bottle or your shampoo or face cream or something like that, or the detergent or your bedclothes, we're touching billions of people every day.
Yeah.
So that comes with a massive responsibility. And as part of our responsibility, that's where my role comes in, to try and advocate for circular economy solutions, more sustainable solutions, to also advocate internally within the company, to advise people what's happening with different regulations around the world of a global role. And then also on the education side, to try and promote, circular economy principles and sustainable principles throughout society.
Yeah, it's a great introduction, and thank you for that. I know that chemical industry is one of the industry that is, as you mentioned, so important for our daily necessities. And although it's one of the most contaminators, right, the most impact the net zero and responsible for emissions. So
Absolutely.
when you mentioned that you have this focus on promoting circular economy, I see this with very good eyes, and I would like to explore that a little bit more.
Yeah, so I suppose at the end of the day, as a primary producer, we're really about providing solutions to our customers. So if you look at the different challenges that companies are having today, a lot of it is around sustainability and people having a very being responsible to the earth, working within planetary boundaries, and how do those companies deliver for what the end consumer wants. So the end consumer today is very conscious about climate change, they're very conscious about pollution, and so the brands that are dealing with those companies need to produce products that align with the worldview of the people who are buying them. And they're looking for solutions in how they do that, and that's where they come to us. So if you take, for example, our PET bottle, if a consumer, and one thing that we have to remember is that we have to make the sustainable choice the easy choice for people. So if it's difficult for me as a consumer you're just not going to do it. So if I can buy a bottle of my favorite cola, lemonade or mineral water yesterday and it's in a virgin PET bottle, and then tomorrow I go to the shop and the same bottle, the same shape, the same design, the same capabilities, the same volume and the same ingredients, if I can buy that but it's fully recycled, that means that I've lowered my carbon impact by somewhere near 90%, and I've also made a sustainable choice, but there's been very little disruption to my life. On the chemical side, if I want to maybe start to wash my clothes at a lower temperature, I still need to have them clean.
Yep.
Okay, I can't have dirty clothes. But if we can give innovative solutions that allows those chemicals within the washing detergent to do a very good job of cleaning your clothes, but to do it at a lower temperature, we're saving the consumer energy. We're allowing them to make the easy choice, to make the environmental choice and the more sustainable choice. So yes, we've a lot to do in the chemical sector, and I think if you talk about it, people can have a very guttural reaction to it without maybe seeing that a lot of the chemistry that we're creating and working together with our customers is allowing the world to embrace sustainable solutions.
There's a technology behind that, right? Because as you mentioned, if you're going to use a chemical to wash your clothes in a lower temperature, someone was were thinking about that. So, and this impact, of course, you can save energy, and this is a technology behind the product, development, investment behind it. And when companies start seeing sustainability as a business as well, I think we can move forward and faster.
Yeah, I mean, we're a family owned and family
Oh,
run company. We're a publicly listed company, but our biggest stakeholder is the Lohia family, and they tend to look in quarter centuries rather than in annual quarters. What is the next generation of the family? How are they going to lead? Will the business be there for them? So they've taken a long term view on our sustainable outlook and invested accordingly. So they're making sure that sustainability isn't an office on the 44th floor or two or three individuals, that it's in our DNA and it permeates our business. So if you're a general operative and you're cleaning up the factory floor at the end of the night, are you making sure that every single pellet of PET is doesn't escape and go into the environment? If you're the CFO, are you making sure that you're making the financial decisions that can support a more sustainable business? And if you're a procurement officer, are you working with companies that are trying to lower their carbon footprint, deliver more, recycled, sustainable, bio-based feedstocks, etc., to bring them into the company to allow us to provide those solutions to the customers that we deal with every day, and through them to touch billions of lives.
yeah, we need to be able to see the hidden value of sustainability because there's so much opportunity there. And one of the challenges, I guess, is to stop, rethink, and study, right, how we can do it. And that said, I would to understand a little bit because I know I read in your website that you have a circular economy teaching program, and I would want to know more about it because, of course, if we don't have education about it, we are not going to do it. So, would you mind to go deep on
Yeah,
the waste?
absolutely.
Is I think it's Waste Hero
Waste
program.
Hero. Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the issues that we've discovered is that a lot of people want to do the sustainable thing, but they struggle to know how to live sustainable lives.
Yep.
And there's a lot of disinformation out there,
Guilty.
and people don't necessarily know. So, I work in a recycling business.
Yeah.
And when you work in a recycling business, you go to a cafe, a restaurant, families' houses, you're talking to friends, and everybody says, can I recycle this? Is this recycled? Does this go into
Yeah.
the green bin? Does this go into the compost bin? Can I compost this? So you get lots of questions, and you suddenly realize that something that's very intuitive to us within the industry, that yes, of course, you can recycle PET and it's made to be remade. That's very different for a lot of people. And even my own
Yeah.
parents struggle,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we've all had this. You get a phone call at a funny time of day with your mother asking if she can put a cardboard box into the recycling bin.
I'm studying circular economy at a university here in Barcelona, and we went to a visit in a recycling facility. And one of the problems was exactly that because this was the
Mixed waste.
mixed waste. So people throw a lot of different things, and some of the things, it's a problem for the process itself. For example, if a patient from cancer and you are in treatment, you cannot dispose that.
Yeah,
It's different
yeah.
because
Medical waste has to be incinerated.
exactly,
Yeah,
because this disposal can damage the
yeah.
whole truck of trash.
So it's not just
And just because people doesn't know how to throw it out.
exactly, and it's not just about that. We're missing. If somebody doesn't know to recycle their water bottle, that we're missing that, and that goes out of the loop and into the environment, or we're not getting the full value from it. It's also a business issue for us.
Yep.
So if we're a recycler, if we get 100 units of PET coming in the back door post consumer, and we're trying to recycle it, if it's contaminated, if there's a piece of, pepperoni stuck to it, or if somebody's put a cigarette into the bottom of it or something, that contaminates
Yep.
our feedstock. So that means that maybe only 69 of the 100 units that are coming in the back door can be recycled. So we pay for 100 and we only recycle 69. Yep. So we looked at this issue, and one of the things we that jumped out at us was that people could not distinguish PET from any other type of polymer or plastic. So people think that all plastic is the same, and it's not. So PET is incredibly recyclable, and it is recycled in practice and at scale.
There's a market for it.
There's a massive secondary market for it, and people are using it. But there's a lot of other polymers. Some are just not recyclable at all, and some are not recycled enough, whereas we are truly within the circular economy. So we decided, okay, we have to try and address this through education. But at the same time, we didn't want to be just talking about our own product, right? This wasn't a marketing idea for PET or for our company. We decided, look, we need to raise up the education levels about the circular economy across the board. So we went to Professor Muhammad Yunus, who's currently the interim Prime Minister of Bangladesh as well. But at the time, he was running the Yunus Foundation, and he was also the co-founder of Yunus Thailand. Thailand is where our company is headquartered, in Bangkok, and we're registered on the Thai Stock Exchange, even though we're a global company with a third of our business in the Americas. But we went into Yunus Thailand, which I say is part of Professor Muhammad Yunus. Professor Muhammad Yunus, by the way, is a Nobel Peace Prize winner. He also has several medals from US presidents and the US Congress and so on. So he's recognized globally as being a leader. And we went to his foundation and we said, can you help us to develop and deliver an education program? What they did was they assembled a group of activists and teachers who wrote lesson plans, and a lesson plan is basically a PowerPoint with a script, and you could have maybe some, a sheet of paper that children can colour in or that they can write on, so a handout for the class. They did 19 of those for everything from kindergarten, where, you're talking about the bunny has to put their toys back in the box,
okay,
and that means that you have to put your aluminium can or your PET bottle back into the recycling bin. Mm-hmm. And right up to university level, where we have, this thought experiment to see if university students can try and construct a more circular business model. Do they want to look at the shared economy rather than looking at trying to get units out the door? Using examples like Airbnb and Uber and things like that. So from kindergarten right up to university, we developed these. So these are written for teachers by teachers. And then we went and tested it with global leaders in education. So a professor from education here, from all over the world, and then back into the classroom to test it. So we've developed that. Our name doesn't appear on it. And our reason, and we don't just talk about PET, we talk about paper, glass, metals, and so on, because we knew that a teacher doesn't want to teach about polymers. They want to teach about all aspects of the circular economy. And I suppose it's important to say at this point that the circular economy isn't just about recycling.
Exactly.
It's about reduce, it's about reuse, it's about remanufacture, it's about reselling. And we discuss this. So, we also talk about the garbage patch in our oceans. So we took a very adult and a very serious view from this. It's not part of our marketing initiative, it's an education initiative. And we felt that unless we were absolutely truthful and honest within this, that teachers weren't using it. Teachers aren't silly, and neither are children, by the way. Mm-hmm. So you have to address all the concerns and put everything from them. So wasteheroeducation.com is there. It's in 10 different languages, including, it's actually Brazilian Portuguese, you'll be glad to hear, Flavia.
Yeah.
And that's one of our better markets, where we're seeing hundreds of thousands of children in Brazil learning from this. But it's out there now. We had a target to try and educate 1 million children by 2030. We hit that this year. So we've educated 1 million children already in the
All
first 2
right.
years of the project.
Well
So
done.
we're now beginning to try and see, can we expand that
Mm-hmm.
and what our targets should be. So 10 different languages, 19 different lessons, going to teachers all over the world, talking about all aspects of the circular economy. And I think that what we can do then is, yes, as an advocate, I'm going into politicians and I'm talking about laws now. Do we need better collection laws? Do we need better recycling laws? That's going at one end of the spectrum. But we
Yeah.
have to go at the other end of the spectrum, which is talking to the next generation of leaders and letting them know an evidence-based and a fact-based approach to what we're doing and seeing what they can do. Because when I'm retiring, they're going to be coming into office all over the world.
Exactly.
What's going to happen then, and how can they push the circular
As
economy
you mentioned,
forward?
when you have different approach, when you start with kids in kindergarten and they have this internalized how the sustainability itself internalized, it's of course so good because when they are growing up and they are starting to work and having their own business, they will have these values in their core as well. As you mentioned, Indorama Ventures has in at its core the sustainability vision. So we are going to probably have more entrepreneurs think the same. So I think this is awesome. It's one step. And of course, when you mentioned why this doesn't happen, we need to governments and society to get along and do more about it. For example, with regulations and demanding politics to to create and make companies accountable. And so yeah, of course. And you mentioned that you have the platform for this in different languages. So it's amazing what you have accomplished already because you hit the target. So are you probably using a lot of technology to make this possible?
Yeah, you know, in Thailand, we actually have a team of people who work with schools, and they physically go into the schools and they
All
work with
right.
the teachers to do that. That's very difficult to do on a global scale.
Yeah.
So, whilst there's, an education team based in Bangkok that's going out working with the municipality to work on education programs there and throughout Thailand, you can't have that same amount of resources all over the country. You'd need to put maybe 10 into Germany, you'd need to put 100 into the United States. So it gets very expensive very quickly. So we decided to use the internet and as a way to try and act as a multiplier. So, but and we've worked with influencers and we've worked with publications to try and go out there. But our main way is to try and work with educators.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously, there's no way in any way, shape, or form that we're trying to get these messages to kids. Kids don't want to know about lessons and homework, do they? So
No.
you're trying to get to some of the teachers. So in Southeast Asia, we've worked with the Southeast Asia Ministers of Education Organization, SIMEO,
Mm-hmm.
and SIMEO SEPS, one of their programs. So they're working, and we also have essay competitions, which are huge in Asia and the world. In America, we work with the two biggest teachers unions, so the NEA and the AFT.
Yeah.
So they have about 5 million between the two of them, 5 million educators working with them. So we work with these teachers unions to
All
try
right.
and promote it out there. So it's wasteheroeducation.com. And so by putting that out there, so if you're getting a letter from your trade union in the States, there's going to be a little advert for Waste Hero there. Actually, the AFT, the American Federation of Teachers, they have this incredible platform where teachers all over that country are sharing lesson plans that they have themselves have done. So if they have a lesson about an oxbow lake for geography and they put it up there in California, it can be used by teachers all over the country. So we've put our lessons onto that platform so that teachers can
Yeah,
access
and
it
the
and
best
share
way
it.
to do that to reach more kids and people because the professors normally they have 30 students, and if the web page is focused on them instead of the students itself, of course is it's better to reach
And it's fascinating some of the
a broad audience.
it's fascinating to see some of the unintended consequences. So we spent a huge amount of time translating this into lots of different languages, whether it was, languages from Southeast Asia, South America, throughout Europe. And what we found was that a lot of people wanted the lessons in English because they were using the lesson plans to teach English.
English, yeah.
So, this was one of those counterintuitive moments where you're thinking, okay, people in Brazil, in Spain, they're going to want to have this in their native language. But obviously, some teachers were just using it to teach something else, because reduce, reuse, recycle, remanufacture, resell, remake. These are keywords that maybe don't come up in everyday conversation,
Yep.
but they're going to be big words later on as people grow into those roles and change their jobs.
Yeah, especially because we see that waste is it's can be a feedstock, as you mentioned, right? And we are the world is kind of getting without natural resource. So the only way that we can thrive is changing how we think about waste.
Well, we have to put a value on these materials. So look at our streets. Okay, is there a €50, a 50 real, or a $50 note on the ground outside? No, there's no littered money.
Yeah.
Why? Because it has a value. So if you, what we're doing, and it's not just us, like if you look at some of the big brands have made very big commitments. They're going to have so much recycled content in their bottles. They're going to make all of their packaging recyclable. That sends a market signal to us.
Mm-hmm.
And we then say, okay, we're going to build recycling plants all over the world. So we committed about 1.5 billion to increase the amount of recycling that we're doing, to make sure that we're recycling 50 billion bottles every year by 2025. And we're getting there. Let's see how we do at the end of the year. But if we're doing that, we're asking some of the municipalities, some of the cities to say, okay, we will buy post-consumer materials.
Mm-hmm.
Are you putting in the collection infrastructure? Are you putting in the sorting infrastructure that's going to feed these bottles? Because if you can bring them to us, we're going to give you cash money. In the last 10 years, we spent $1 billion on rubbish.
Wow.
So we're buying post-consumer waste from people. And that type of investment, by putting value on it, means like the 50 real, the €50 or the $50 note, it's not going to be on the road. People are going to see it and say, okay, that is value. I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to recycle it.
And I think it's nice the example you gave, because there is no circular economy without collaboration, right? You are doing your part and you need to do yours, so then we can work together on that, because the problem of emission is not something that is for a problem for one specific company or country. No, it's a global issue. Waste is a global issue. So everyone needs to be on board, right? And I think people know what, and company knows what circular economy is and what it stands for, but still struggle a lot to create initiatives and make plans and implement those plans. So when you talk me that you are talking with other people, other companies and governments to work together in solutions, I think this is the way, right? Do you
Yeah.
see that collaboration is one of the challenge?
Absolutely. So, my role is a very, very visible way of showing how committed we are to partnerships. So, in the past, primary manufacturers, people who are making base materials or chemicals, which were then going to be given to consumer-facing companies to use, they kind of sat backwards and said, okay, I'm not going to join this conversation. I'm not going to join this partnership. My customer, the consumer-facing person, will lead on this. We had to step up. Okay, so with increasing conversations about plastics, with increasing conversations about chemicals, we had to try and do more to make sure that we were holding hands with our customers, with our own suppliers, and with civic society and with NGOs to make sure that that partnership was giving an evidence-based approach. So I realize that at the moment, plastics can be very controversial because there's negative externalities associated with plastic with waste. We acknowledge that. That's why we're asking for more collection. But also we have to make sure that we don't take any knee-jerk decisions that push us in where we're making a worse environmental impact. So if you switch away from one material that's maybe recyclable and recycled, and you switch into a material that's unrecyclable or that's heavier or that's more carbon heavy, then we all do the world more damage.
Yeah.
So now if I go to a government and say that as an advocate, that is difficult because they're going to say, well, you would say that, wouldn't you? Because, you're selling plastic and then you're saying that plastic is a good thing. If I partner with an NGO, if I partner with civic society, if I partner with value chain actors, and all of us go and present evidence to government
Yeah.
and say, this is what we're thinking about, that's a lot more impactful.
Yeah, I think you touch base in something that is very important to back it up your claims, right? Because how do you prove that your sustainable product is really sustainable, right? And I think that is once again when technology can help companies to prove, right? So we Finboot, we have the solution for traceability. And do you think that traceability can enhance this transparency that we need to back it up all these sustainability claims?
Traceability is crucial. And this is where solutions like what Finbot and others are offering is going to be essential to our everyday business for the rest of my life, at the very least. It, it's important to ensure that what we're doing is we're not just delivering a sustainable product, but we're doing it in a sustainable way.
Yeah.
So we need to know if we're taking an ingredient that's going to go into our PET, what is the carbon impact of that? So people are learning and discovering, scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. So, my scope 1 is going to be my customer scope 3. And, my scope 3 is going to be, something that I have to be extremely clear on what the measurement is. And then when you're looking at ingredients that are going into a final product, maybe, 30% of the ingredients going to come from one company and maybe 70 from another. And how do you balance that out? So the traceability is essential to know the carbon impact of what we're doing. So where people have science-based targets, nearly all of our customers and nearly all of consumer-facing companies have science-based targets. They have incredibly tough rules to make sure that you're following exacting standards to know you're on the route to carbon neutrality.
Yeah, we have
and how
so
you do
many
it.
stakeholders involved and complex supply chains behind that. So of course, we need to measure everything and to look at everyone.
At its most basic level, when you're in the manufacturing industry, sometimes companies will struggle to know just how many suppliers they have.
Yeah.
And I've seen that take time in other industries. Then, okay, let's say you have a supplier and it's, Colm's Supplies. Are they giving me an ingredient from a factory that is run on solar energy? Are they giving me an ingredient from a factory that's run on coal? Are they giving me something that's coming from maybe a factory that's powered by nuclear? So I need to know not just the supplier, but the ingredient from each of them. So, and that's getting increasingly complex. And then for me to try and translate that and put that into information that's available to my suppliers is becoming increasingly complex. So we need to have, innovative solutions that can track the supply chain and, for recycled material. Is this recycled material coming from the jurisdiction that it's within? Can we say that this is perfectly closed loop? Is it coming from outside our jurisdiction? Is it coming from food applications? So in order to comply with food applications, you have to have, very high percentages, say 95% of the trays that you're putting into it or the bottles that you're putting into it have to come from food contact. So can I make absolutely sure in order to comply with food safety regulations around the world that I know where these are coming from?
Yeah, this is another point, because when you have this digital ecosystem, not only for track, but when you have all this information gathered already, you can also have risk assessment of your suppliers, of your products, right? And then comply with regulations so much easier, and even use the same data that you already have to comply with different regulations.
And even as I'm talking to you now, we're in the middle of very tense trade discussions across the world. And there's some talk about how maybe if you have 20% of the ingredients in your product are made in a particular company, then tariffs won't apply. And if it's 25% under other rules. So it's not just sustainability. It's also about financial. and it's also about, health and safety with food contact. So many aspects of your business are coming down to traceability, understanding your supply chain, and being able to track all the various parts of it, that we see these solutions becoming increasingly important and, quite frankly, crucial to the future of delivering for our customers and for society.
I totally agree with you, Com. So we are heading to our end of the interview. I'm so glad that you were able to join us. Do you have any final thoughts that you would like to share?
Yeah, I think that in these, increasingly uncertain times, it's very important that we, work towards an evidence-based society. That, part of our education program and part of my role as an advocate is to ensure that we're not making decisions based on what we believe is popular or what we heard on TikTok this morning. We're making decisions that genuinely deliver real advances. Coming back to the point about, if you decide, okay, I'm not going to have a PET bottle, I'm going to choose an alternative material. That alternative material most likely has a higher environmental impact because, if you hold a lighter to a PET bottle, will it melt?
Yeah.
If you hold a lighter to the other materials, they're not going to melt. So they need incredibly high temperatures, which take an awful lot of energy to produce. So once you're putting it into the recycling bin and keeping it into the circular economy, you're going to deliver better environmental outcomes than if you're choosing an alternative that has a higher carbon footprint. So that's a very small example. But when we come to government and when we come to our own lives within our businesses, my earnest hope is that we move more towards an evidence-based society. And if we're going to have that evidence basis, whether it's coming through our public policy, our business decisions, our finances, or human behaviour, we need to have all the data and all the information. And that's where systems like your own can deliver that data, which we can turn into information, and that can be fed into a process to make those evidence-based decisions. And that would be, other than visiting wasteheroeducation.com, that'd be my final thought, that we move to a solid evidence-based and we get the data to support that.
Exactly, I agree with you. This is so thoughtful. Thank you so much to join us today. I hope to see you soon. Thank you everyone for watching us, and stay tuned for more videos and interviews with Finboot.